Hello, fellow aviators. Welcome to JPL Aviation, where leadership and aviation take off. Today is day 3 of my IFR training, and what we did was we shot an approach into Fullerton, we shot 2 approaches into Long Beach, and we did a bunch of instrument attitude training over in the Long Beach practice area. So first off, let's go to what happened at Fullerton. The Fullerton debrief was we took off out of Fullerton, and I did a left crosswind departure to the practice area over in Long Beach, and that was in the below 4,500 feet right off the coast over here. I actually had never done practicing over in this area, and it was super cool because I got to be right next to the Queen Mary, also near Queen's Gate, as you guys can see right here. Part of this, my experience from this was I feel pretty confident in my aircraft control. The only things I have to work on is that when I am focusing on other things or my mind gets diverted somewhere else, I tend to lose like a little, like 100 feet or so here, which is obviously a bust. So I got to work on multitasking in the aspect of I need to make sure that I'll be able to work the GPS, check out my charts, while at the same time maintaining my heading and altitude that I'm assigned or that I'm working on. So that way I can, not bust my altitudes for the check ride and also be a safe and more competent pilot. Part of that, the solution would be to use more trim. I thought I did a pretty good job of using trim throughout most of the flight, but obviously there's some times where it's like, oh, dang it, I lost 100 feet or something real quick. In regards to primary and supporting instruments, that's like kind of what's taught for this. I usually go by sight picture and how that whole system works, because primary and supporting, you're already trying to think about way too much in the aircraft. And if you look at the instruments as like I need a certain sight picture with the instruments themselves, align the miniature airplane to for straight and level flight to the horizon bar, it's a lot easier than actually having to think of like, oh, what instrument do I need to look to next. Another big thing was developing a proper timing with my scan. I would find myself kind of getting lazy after 30-40 minutes of instrument. My scan would kind of start to break down because I didn't really have a disciplined, set rhythm of how I'm going to be looking at each of the instruments. So that was a big thing I took away from that part of the flight. But overall, Matt said I did pretty good. I think I'm pretty solid with it. So after that, we went over to Long Beach to shoot some approaches into Long Beach. And Long Beach approaches, we shot the let's go check it out. We shot the ILS again at Long Beach, and this time it was very educational, because as I'm coming into Long Beach, Gunny intersection at 1,600 feet, that line underneath 1,600 means that you have to be above it. So coming into Gunny, our second VOR from Seal Beach in order to identify the intersection wasn't working. So we just had the controller call Gunny intersection for us, which is really cool because obviously it still allows us to do the ILS approach without actually having to track the radial coming out of Seal Beach, which would have been the radial 196, as you guys can see right here. So I personally would have rather had the radial to track, because that's more practice of actually tracking the radials and identifying Gunny intersection, but that's okay. So coming into Gunny intersection, the big thing that I have to work on, which is nice that I have to work on it because it's just the skill aspect of it, is as I'm coming in to align myself with the runway, we're getting vectored in, and I'm tracking that that localizer. I need to focus on what time is right in order to start my turn. Because when you start your turn a little too early or a little too late, the chances of you overshooting the runway are pretty high, or being undershooting, and you end up kind of doing one of these things, just trying to track, or here you go, like this. You do one of these things, just trying to track the straight line when it should be right here. So that's something I took away. Also, that's part of the skill aspect of instrument flying, and I realized that's just something that's going to take time and practice to do. So the correction for that is going to be next time on my flights, I'm going to be looking for 4 degrees, so 2 dots out. When that localizer starts to swing in on my instruments, I'm going to be making sure that I start my turn slowly, standard rate, into the course of whatever the runway is. On this time, it was 301. And start turning towards that direction, so that way I line up myself up with the localizer, and it makes my approach a lot easier. But yeah, that was coming into Gunny. Didn't need to do a holding pattern. I found that the localizers and ILSs are actually quite easy compared to the actual approach plates themselves, because a lot of the time ATC, like Matt was telling me, they'll guide you in, they'll vector you in. It's rare that they actually have you fly the full approach. So I mean, that's beneficial, but at the same time, it's going to be nice, and I'm definitely going to go up and practice, flying full approaches and pushing myself to know how each of these are. So, and then there was the missed approach, climbed 800 feet, turn left, heading of 200, and climb to 3,000. You're going to be crossing the LAX radial at 145 and the radial 210 off of Seal Beach, and that's where you're going to hold at Patter intersection. So we went up and we didn't do the hold. We just went back out to the practice area, and then we came in for another approach onto this. So that's what happened with that. And then after that we went back to the Fullerton Municipal Airport. We planned to shoot an approach into Torrance, but that ended up not working, just like time wise. So I went over to Fullerton for the VOR-A, and this was another fun circling approach. So I didn't really have a full understanding of what a circling approach actually was and like how it was applicable to aviation when you're flying these approaches. And as I was coming into the Fullerton VOR-A approach, I was flying in, checking my altitudes, 2,600 from the SLI, Seal Beach VOR-TAC, at or above 2,600. No procedure turn was needed because we were getting vectored in. Once again, not flying the full approach because we're in Southern California and they give us a bunch of vectors. My airspeed, 90 knots. So I started my timer 412 when I hit that Seal Beach VOR-TAC at 2,600. And that's kind of my way that I'm going to judge at what point I should be over the runway. So at 1,500 feet was my circling minimums for this, and if we have BWALT fixed minimums, which we did because the controller called it for us, and that was something in the flight you'll notice. Oh, that's right. And so I was stupid and the audio didn't get picked up, but there's still, you can still look at the flight and learn from it. But in this flight, the BWALT intersection over the radio, he called, something about BWALT. I was too busy focusing on flying the aircraft, and so it's something I still got to work on. And I was like, what's BWALT, blah, 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 and I didn't look at the plate, and blah, blah, I missed it. Matt said he'll debrief me on the ground. So we went and debriefed on the ground. But if you have BWALT fixed minimums, then you can go down to 760 feet instead of 1,500. So that's exactly what I did on this approach. Went down to 760 feet and broke out of the clouds at 760 feet and talked about a circling approach. And I got to the runway at 760 feet, basically in the downwind. And it was one of those things that you don't actually fly a normal pattern once you get down underneath the clouds. You have to make sure that you are kind of flying like a literal circle into land. And Matt and he said like, oh, you want to extend your base a little bit, or whatever it was. And I said, well, I was just, I could come straight in and land. I wasn't worried about it, but it was just his preference to extend the base out a little bit. So I said, okay, cool. So we extended the base. Also, another good thing to note that if you are flying on a circling approach and you will have the runway in sight, and then all of a sudden you pop back into a cloud, you immediately have to go missed. And the best way to do that is turn towards the runway and climb runway heading and execute the missed approach. So, yeah, that's another talking point to talk about, but that was the flight for this IFR Day 3. It went overall pretty well. You can watch the debrief at the end of the video with me and Matt, and we talk about the intricacies of the flights and what was learned. And yeah, sorry about the audio this time, guys, and maybe I'll just talk about stuff during the video, IFR concepts and subjects. And yeah, so JPL Aviation's Leadership and Takeoff. Guys, make sure you please like and subscribe. Share it with your friend if you are going on your IFR journey. If you know people who are going on the IFR journey, or maybe if you're an old timer and you just want to watch someone go through the journey again. I'm your guy. So JPL Aviation is where leadership and aviation take off. Is that your bag?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Make sure it's not too squished. Good.
As far as comms, I'll let you do most of the comms today. I think the only one, in case you think you could do it, it would be when we're getting better onto the final. It's that long clearance call. So in case you could do it, I'll let you try it. If not, I'll do it. But for comms, I'll let you do most of it today.
See how I do.
All right. You got it.
Two. On this side, right? Like this. This one comes across.
Yeah, you gotta loosen it up there. No, it's all the way.
I was gonna say, like, I'm not mechanically competent.
I think this one comes over here and it attaches to right here. See that?
I don't know if it's done. That's just. Oh. Ah.
There you go.
Just stuck. Let's get this bad boy up and running. Good.
There you go.
No big deal. Alright. And you put your, I think it's underneath. Put my hood back here. Oh, that is.
Okay.
So it's easy to grab.
Yep, sounds good. All right, checklist will be here at the light when you're ready to go. Let's do it.
Dope. Alright, seatbelt's good. Air vents, fire extinguisher. Don't have one on this. Okay, exit emergencies, talk traffic questions, pause exchange, brief, seatbelts adjust, seats locked, fist left belt. Both avionics off, beacon light on, it's on, circuit breakers check in. Good. We have extra start. Extra's good to go in. Prime 1, 2, 3. Go to open the 4th inch. Brakes hold, props on. Pull earlier, it's clear. I'll pull the master on. And
Alright, so you did he did the one landing here, Fullerton. Number of instrument approaches, you did 3, 1.5 today. Simulated under the hood. You were pretty much under the hood the whole time, huh? So yeah, let's give you
1.4.
Yeah, 1.4.
First 5 minutes were.
Hit PIC 1.4. And okay, total flight time. Oh no.
Probably 1.5.
PIC 1.5, yep, and then total flight time 1.5.
Every 0.10 counts, man.
Yep.
Is that just the experience factor in regards to like the angles coming in for approaches and the timing of it when you're
For sure.
turning, and that's just the thing?
For sure, yeah.
That's so frustrating.
I mean, because when you're as a private pilot, you're just flying. You're flying visual. You're not really looking to anticipate localizers coming in. It just goes with repetition. Though the more you do it, the more you're gonna get used to that stuff. So you'll definitely get it for sure. That's not too much.
And then IFR means you're flying 90% of the time, and then you got a little cloud layer at the airport, and just poop.
Yep, exactly.
Oh man, it's so frustrating 'cause it's like you can prepare so much, and then it's like the thing that just takes time. You just have to do it and do it and do
exactly.
it.
Yeah, and if you don't shoot approaches for a while too, you'll see that you get rusty with it too. So. All right, so that's your 1.5 in there. Everything's good to go in your logbook. Pull up the approach plates. As far as like the instrument flying it out of the approach area, I thought that was pretty straightforward. I think you had that. That was no problem.
I feel comfortable with it.
Yeah, I did that on purpose because when you're under the hood doing the approaches, it's good that you already have that visual scan of your instruments going already. Because you already kind of get that feel of it.
Yeah.
So we did that first to kind of get you kind of warmed up for the approaches, and then we can pull up our iPads and we'll look up localizer 30 for Long Beach. All right. So, we called up approach up around here about the ME and AVA platforms, and then we just let them know we're Cessna 172. They want to know what equipment we have, so we just tell them we're a slant uniform, meaning we don't have GPS. We told them we're about 5 miles south of Los Alamitos at the altitude we're at, and they gave us a squawk code. So. The thing that it's kind of hard to tell when you're under the hood, obviously, but once you get a better feel with the area that you're at, they're going to start giving you headings. So they started giving us vectors, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they started off with like 09 and they had us go to like 360, and then off to like 330.
Mm-hmm.
And what they're doing, if you see Long Beach right here, the long one is on runway 30, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you look all the way out, that localizer is shooting out over here. So what they're doing is basically setting us up for the approach. So we're coming in from the south, and they're coming in here and they're giving us headings. So 350, which is about here, and then 330, which is about here. And then at that point, you're going to see your localizer start to come in, right? And that's what I was telling you. It's all about anticipating it. So we got to make sure that we maintain the altitude at 1,600, I think it was. And then we just got to, when that localizer comes in, you want to anticipate turning, once we're cleared for the approach, you want to turn to 330, so that when that localizer goes in, it stays right there at the center. If you keep it center line the whole time, the approach becomes so much easier. You just hold that heading, and you hold that altitude.
I feel like sometimes I was, especially on this one, I was on the 301. But because the precession was happening, potentially, I got a little off. I don't know if that was my fault, if it was I was off and I didn't fly it correctly.
So
or
the first one we did. The second one was definitely better. The first one we overshot it, so we got cleared for the approach. And they told us to fly localizer heading, right, which is 300.
Mm-hmm.
You stayed about like 330, a little bit past it. Like right when it got centered on, that's when you started to turn. So at that point, we're trying to catch up already and starting to pass it, and it goes by fast. Once you pass that radio or that localizer, it's gonna shoot by fast. So we have to anticipate that. That's why we were kind of going left and right. Localizer almost got full deflection. So it's all about anticipating and getting it on center. Like I said, if we're actual IFR, if that localizer goes full deflection or glide slope goes full deflection, we have to go missed right away.
If I'm visualizing like coming in for this localizer, as I was turning, at what point is like the best reference to start?
So
2 to 4 degrees, 8 degrees.
So you see on your OBS one, you have those tick marks, the 2, the 4, the 6. Right after the 4, when it's about halfway, that's when you want to start turning, because at that point you're anticipating it, and you turn to that heading. If you do it at the standard rate, it's going to go right on the middle right there.
And is each glide slope going to be about the same width of the VHF that it's putting out? Or?
That is correct.
So around 4 degrees of the ILS is when you can start.
Yes.
Okay. So that's something that would be helpful
for sure. For sure. And then also, like I said, we didn't have a cross rail for gunny, so once we talked tower, we asked them if they can call out gunny for us. Your glide slope's going to come in once you get to final approach fix. So it's nice that they could tell us that, but in case they didn't, we would just stay at 1,600 until we see our glide slope will come alive. Once we get to that center point, then we know we've crossed the intersection.
And that's something we should probably call out too, like glide slope alive, right?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. We'll do the same thing with localizer alive when we're getting vectored in, and we could do glide slope alive too when we're coming in to our final approach fix. So we didn't go down to our minimums because Long Beach is pretty busy today. They had us, go missed, and then we did that. We got with SoCal approach. They vectored us on again. And then the second one was actually a lot better. I think we kind of anticipated it better. We got on our heading on 300, and that localizer was pretty much smack in the middle the whole time, So, like I said, if you get it like that, the approach becomes a lot easier.
We're always getting the vectoring. Like, how often are we actually going to be flying like this whole thing and having to go through each one? Like, how often does that happen?
In all of my training and all the flights that I've been doing, 90% of the time, you get vectored onto the final. The only time they'll actually have you do the hold is if they're really, really busy. And at that point, they'll just tell you to do the published hold.
No, like I was looking at Torrance, and Torrance has like 4 different, each marker is all off of a second VOR that you're tuning in and tracking. And I was like,
so you would at a point you would have to change the OBS every time on that one.
And like, is that something? Because I'm like thinking like big pictures. That's something I'm always gonna have to be prepared to do, or is it just like vectoring?
It all depends on the airport. Torrance is like that, but most of the airports I've been around, they're not like that. They just have like one published missed approach point. Sometimes they have 2, but for the most part, it'll be like one procedure that you have to do. We did that. The second one was a lot better. I thought that we kept on our localizer. Our glide slope started to get a little bit below. So when that happens, the way I like to think about it is if your glide slope is below, that means your VSI, you want to drop it more. If your glide slope's above, that means get your VSI above. Does that make sense, kind of? Yeah, that's how I kind of think about it. So.
And at what point are like too high, and like how do you judge that? Because we don't have DME, so we don't know exactly how far we are, and that's when we go time-wise. We have to look at like, okay, we were at what 412 was the.
Well, at the ILS, we don't have to do a timer. It's nice to do it just in case you lose your glide slope, but it's not required to time your time.
And this is part of the prepping, because I'm thinking like, what if I'm too high too far, and like I try to drop it down real quick, or like what's the best way to go about doing that? Say if I am coming in too high and I'm realizing I'm too high. Granted, I can put it down, but if I'm in hard IMC, I can't tell where I am in relation to the runway. So
if you're doing a VO alpha approach or doing a localizer, the best way to do it, you're going to have to, obviously, don't go past your minimums. So don't go past 520. And then you have to be able to monitor your time. So if you could stay at 90 knots on your descent, the better it is for you, because you're going to get an accurate time right here. Let's say you get a little fast, you get to 100. Well, then you're going to have to adjust it a little bit, right? And 120 is 2 minutes and 21 seconds. And then 90 knots is 3 minutes and 8. So you're going to have to kind of judge what it's going to be. If you get a little slow, it'd be the opposite, right? Instead of 3 minutes and 8, you would have to get something between 442 and 308. So the better you can nail your airspeeds on your descent when it comes to your VOR approaches and your localizer approaches, the better for you. So like I said here, missed approach point for a localizer would be at your 520 feet.
Yeah.
And you get to your 3 minutes and 8 seconds, you don't see the runway, you have to go missed. You get to, on your ILS, which is a precision approach, you get your 258 DA. While you're on your glide slope, you don't see the runway, you have to go missed. If you see the approach lights, then you can continue. You can go up to 100 feet above it. You see the red terminating bars, you can stay at 100 feet right there. You can go below that if you want on that. Let's see.
What's
Circling.
the VGSI and ILS not coincident? What's
VGSI?
underneath the 800?
VGSI and ILS glide slope not coincident. VGSI angle 3 degrees. So your VGSI angle 3 degrees. That's your standard. The standard that you want to be at 3 degrees.
What does VGSI stand for? I was going to say.
VGSI. To be honest, I'm not sure.
I'm probably like I saw that earlier and I was like,
Yeah. To be honest, I'm not sure exactly what that is.
Homework.
3 degrees. Yeah. So, that's it. And then for circling, we did circling into Fullerton. So we'll pull that up. I thought this was probably your best approach today.
vertical glide slope indicator.
Could be.
Yeah.
Vertical glide slope indicator. Yeah. VOR alpha, we got the best thing to do is just get it set up right away. I put in the vortex frequency, I got it identified already, and then we put in approach course 020. Got the weather in there, and then they had us about like right here. They vectored us on at about 360, which put us in like over here somewhere, and then we got onto that vortex. So we blew past it by a little bit, but then we corrected pretty good. And then our final approach fix for here is Seal Beach vortex. So we identify our final approach fix by flying over the vortex. You get that flip of the flag, and that lets you know when to start the approach.
Oh,
For your final, yeah, exactly. So you go to 90 knots, start the time at 412. B-wall fix minimums. If we have DME, we'll be able to identify it. If we don't, we ask the tower. If they're unable to give us B-wall fix minimums, then we can go down to 760. We have to stay at 1500.
That's what B-Walt was.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why I was asking if he can call out B-wall for us, so we don't have to be so high. You know, that's like 400 feet above TPA. We were right here at 760, which kind of said us good. Circling, like I was saying before, it's not a traffic pattern. It's not square. You know, you're kind of doing one circular motion like that, and you actually flew it really well. You flew it really well.
That's John Wayne for you. That's the
yeah.
dog like coming in.
So, yeah, that was good. And then also, one other thing I want to point out, I kind of told you in the air as well. If we enter that, we're coming south, right? And we enter that left traffic pattern, the left downwind for runway 24. Let's say we are an IFR, right? We are an IFR, we break out of the clouds, and then we enter the downwind, and then we fly into a cloud. Or we're at our minimums, and we don't see a cloud anymore. We have to go full power, go towards the runway heading, and then do the missed approach. If you're doing the circle and at any time you lose a runway, you have to do the missed approach.
And we're flying, so we turn back towards the runway, right?
That is correct.
At that altitude.
You would fly at 240, fly that runway heading over the airport, and then execute the missed approach.
That's frustrating because if you go back towards the runway and then you're like 200, 700 feet above it, and then you see it, and you're like, because you already declared going missed, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
But other than that, your actual procedure of flying the circle was really good. You know, obviously with a shorter runway like that, you didn't have to. You didn't have to extend a little bit downwind. I like to do it just in case we fly a bit over the runway. There's a short runway here. We don't have to actually do the missed approach. So that's kind of why I said that in there. But you have your pilot's judgment. What looks good and what's not. That's kind of my pilot preference. What I like to do. But no problem by cutting it a little early.
Yeah, I don't mind having to come. If I was at the altitude, I was looking. I was like, if I lost an engine right here, I was fine because I know that I'm just gonna be able to slip and go in. So I wasn't.
Yeah,
I wasn't too worried about it.
For sure. And then that was pretty much it. So like I said, these approaches, the biggest thing is stay ahead of the airplane, get as much stuff as you can done before, get your frequencies in there, get your OBS set up. If we have a GPS, we can put that procedure in the GPS for situational awareness. And then that makes your life so much easier as far as flying the approaches. You've had everything set up already. You just fly the approach. So.
Okay.
Yep. Do you have any other questions for me? Or?
Straightforward.
Sounds good.
What's next? Question. What do you think?
Let me know. When do you want to go ahead and we'll try some different approaches. Let's see here. Let me look at my schedule.
What are you thinking? We go? Where we go? What do we do?
So I think we don't have to do the ILS 30 to Long Beach. We did that a couple times. If you want, we could do the localizer, but I think it's better if we get some actual approaches at different airports. So, let's see.
What happens, in VFR flying, if I'm going to a place, I'm looking at the airport in regards to, the uniqueness about it. When I'm flying approaches, what makes an approach, unique and different? Because, if I'm just flying a glide slope and a localizer all the way in, what's the difference in reality between one airport compared to the other?
So, let me show you... Camarillo. KCMA procedures, and they have a Yankee or Zulu, and Zulu 26. Or we can do a Yankee. So look at Camarillo, RNAV, Yankee, runway 26. This is what we have called step downs. This is different when you're doing approaches over terrain. When you're coming in flat over Long Beach, there's not really much you're looking for as far as terrain, right? When you're coming into Camarillo, you have altitude restrictions you have to be at. So when you're flying, here's NASIC here 4,000, and you're flying the approach course going to the final approach fix, you have to find however you say that, Ahi. You put that in your GPS, and then you have those marks there, and you have to stay at that heading 3,300. Level off until you get to that fix right there. Then you can go down to Jezi, your final approach fix at 2,800, and then right here, you have your Kukai, whatever you say, and then you're going to go down to 1,700 there. So it's all the way step downs until you get to your LNAV minimums. So that's like one scenario is when you have terrain. Let me see another one that's like that.
That makes sense. In regards to, so it's how the approach is set up that makes it different.
Exactly. Okay. And the surrounding terrain and everything like that too. So like Ramona, I don't think they have an approach coming from the east to the west because the terrain's so high. So you actually have to come from like the north to the south and come in going east down like that. So that's kind of how approaches vary is when you know, depending on how close you are to a Bravo airport too, depends, you know, that too, or especially terrain. So
okay,
I'm thinking on the next one we'll try some different approaches. We could try bracket next time. We try to get to bracket 2, but the clouds were a little too low. We could try bracket. We'll do El Monte, and then we can either do Riverside. We can go to Riverside, do, you know, an RNAV or an ILS to Riverside, and then we'll try to come back and do the localizer into Fullerton. Try to bang 3 or 4 approaches out next time. Sound good? Let me look at my schedule and see what we can do for the next one. Do you want to do it like during the week or on the weekend?
Yeah, I'm done with school now, so
oh, nice.
Any time in the afternoons works.
All right, let's see here. Okay, so today is the 23rd. I have Monday booked. I have only one flight on Tuesday, and then I have a flight on Friday. So
Wednesday through Thursday you're free?
Yep.
Let's say Wednesday.
Do Wednesday?
Yeah.
All right.
Enjoy the weekend.
For sure. Let me put that down. Schedule. And that's kind of one thing I want to talk to you about too. The faster that we kind of book a flight, the more kind of availability that we have as far as aircraft and the time too. So the better you let me know, that you know, kind of better that way too. So.
Okay.
What time are you thinking? So 8340 Lima is pretty much available anytime before 1 o'clock and after 3 o'clock. Or we can fly APE, which is the one that has the GPS in there, so we could do our nav approaches with that. So, and then Eagle has a nav 2 too, so you can do that as well. So what are you thinking?
3:30, 4. 8, 3, 12. So it's like that's too small of a gap, huh? 3 to 5.
Yeah, I'd like to keep it like at a 2.5 hour gap. So just,
let's say 4 on what is that, Wednesday? Yeah, 4 on Wednesday.
Okay, if you want to keep 8340 Lima.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, 4.
That's better to.
And I'll just block it out to 4 to 6 o'clock. All right, start to end.
It's nice to have it here for the pre-flight instead of just like showing up late.
For sure. All right. 4 to 6.
Wait, Wednesday?
This will be a Wednesday. Yeah.
It's in the morning, right? Wait, what time was the first one actually? Because I was thinking it might, and I'm gonna be tired. No, we'll do 4. 4 is okay.
4 on Wednesday.
Yeah.
Let's see.
I'm thinking like work wise, like okay, am I gonna stay 8 hours or 6?
Right.
Or am I... Yeah. What time is the first flight after? I mean, before us.
27. So I have nothing scheduled as far as that, but we have it. There's someone flying that plane 8340 Lima right before us. So we're basically gonna from 2 to 4 o'clock.
4 p.m.
So yeah, when we get there, they'll come in. We'll do our flight together so we can get that done, and then we'll fly some approaches.
Okay.
Sound good?
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Let me go ahead and just fill out this envelope here, and then we'll get you checked out.
Did you ever get the receipts?
Oh yeah, she said to put your email on here, and she'll email you all the receipts.